Hello again, this is Craig. I'm going to talk about my lesson plan for adolescent romance, and I thought that the best way to tie in adolescent romance into an English context would be with the classic story of Romeo and Juliet. Of course, it's the most cliched representation of adolescent love in literature, or maybe even in history, but I think it's a story that really lasts the test of time. There's a lot of familiarity with it, and so I thought it was a really good choice. So the lesson basically assumes that students have already read the story, they would already have been assigned it, and now they would reflect on how the characters and the development of the story is really affected by this love that Romeo and Juliet have for each other. And hopefully they would understand the play itself better, but also the idea of how healthy and unhealthy relationships can make a massive difference, not only in literature, but in our own lives. So this would be most appropriate for a high school context because of the subject matter. And of course, Shakespeare is a little difficult to understand for people who don't have a high level of context. So I would start by showing an excerpt from the classic Franco Zeffirelli movie. I think that it provides a good visual example of the play. It's just very well done. It's beautiful cinematography, and it also just emphasizes what they've already read. There would be a short time for students to write their overall impressions of the play. In this case, they would write a paragraph about how Romeo feels throughout the play and how Juliet feels, because basically we'd be exploring how their feelings are what drives the plot. It's not all these powerful people in the end, but it's how, it's about a love story. And it's about how a love story can change a great deal of things, which is something that, teenagers can relate to. And I think that the context of the story is often taken away from that, and it's explored from a literary perspective, but it's really, a teenage love story. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's one that's lasted to this day. I would then talk about the 12 healthy aspects of a healthy relationship, and I would ask the students, and I would put them in groups and say, do you think that Romeo and Juliet have practiced these 12 healthy aspects? And I think they would come to the conclusion that that would not be the case, but I would let them figure it out themselves. At the very least, good communication was not really well done, especially near the end. How did Romeo and Juliet's relationship affect their relationship with their families? Again, that's something that adolescent romance has been proven to affect, is relationship with families that may not approve of these relationships for various reasons. And what could they have done differently so that their story might have ended happily ever after? What could they have had a healthy relationship? Obviously, there are a lot of factors at play. There was politics as well, but this will give students a chance to think about, how healthy relationships can manifest differently. There would be within this discussion, they would present their findings after each discussion, and then at the end, I would want them to sort of take an active role and write how their ideas of healthy romance might have been influenced. So it's something they could take away from the lesson. So basically the idea would be that not only would they have a deep understanding of the play, but that they would have a greater understanding of how big of a deal healthy romance can be versus the unhealthy variety. And hopefully I could make a difference in some people's lives who might be going through this themselves. Again, thank you very much for listening.